I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to a special edition of Meet the Candidate. Today we're joined by Santan Valley Council member and candidate Rupert Wolfert. Rupert, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chris. It is a pleasure. But again, just wanted to take this moment to honor and recognize the entire town of Queen Creek, their support for Santan Valley as it has worked to establish itself post-incorporation. I know the financial support during that sort of gray area, getting our finances in order has been really, really essential. So again, we value that and recognize the support we get from our neighbors.
Well, thank you. Well, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and your experience?
Great. So again, my name is Rupert Wolfert. I'm a 10-year resident of Santan Valley. Last year, following the incorporation vote, there was a listing put out by the Pinal County Board of Supervisors for council members to serve in a transitional role. I was one of 85 that heeded that call. Which was winnowed down to 17 for an actual interview at a county board of supervisors meeting. Can I tell you, if you can talk about pressure cooker, that was absolutely one. But again, fortunate to have been appointed as one of the initial 7 to help facilitate the transition to official townhood, which will be coming up shortly on July 1st. I am a U.S. Army veteran. Have deployed twice to Afghanistan. I currently work in the federal government. In fact, my entire career has been in public service. Right now, I work as a program specialist with the Department of Veterans Affairs. Prior to that, I was with FEMA and the Social Security Administration. But Santan Valley has been my home. Actually, my entire extended family has uprooted itself and now calls Santan Valley as well. And can I tell you, I do come from a big family with 5 siblings. So this is definitely our center of operations. I love this town. I love this region. And I've been honored to serve as council member for the past 9 going on 10 months now. And again, want to continue that level of service to my neighbors and constituents. So,
and why get on town council, and what are you hoping to do if you are elected to the position then after being appointed to it?
One thing I think that has drawn many of us to Santan Valley is just how you can easily feel in the air, in the energy in the air, how there's this community feel, this sort of feeling that harkens back to the types of communities that we always thought about when we thought about America, in small town America. Getting to know your neighbors at the grocery stores, at youth sporting events. And for me as a veteran who, of course, has moved from base to base, never felt rooted until I came here. And knowing that this is a place of permanence really has kind of encouraged me to want to do more. Now, we stand at a very exciting time. The country is celebrating its 250th anniversary. And the challenge of being able to create a town so many years later and wanting to build a community is something that I just was really inspired to participate in. To really be able to prove, and again, we're all really privy to the challenges that are facing many communities across our country. But the desire to not only ensure that my home is a successful place, but to be a model for other communities outside of our own locale, I think is something that really gets me up in the morning and has me really eager to get into those 10 council meetings and really get the work done. But again, I'm a student of public policy and administration. I did get my master's in that degree at American University in DC, so I find all of this very dense work actually kind of my cup of tea. But it's definitely been such a great field experience to be able to apply kind of what I learned in vivo on the ground and know that it's going to have direct impacts to my family, my friends, and my neighbors here locally.
Well, setting up a new town is definitely challenging, and you guys have been working on codes and ordinances, which is also very dense, as you mentioned.
Yes.
But with that in mind, what do you think the top 3 priorities are going forward for the new town?
Well, initially off the top, and it's just a very sort of general topic that kind of sneaks into a lot of different, very, very important areas, but just the whole entire notion of growth, balanced growth. What does that mean? Right now, we've been operating without a general vision or general plan, so this gives us the space to be able to come together as a community and have an informed discussion about what that specifically means. Without those parameters and framework in place, there's no telling where the development will go, how worse the congestion can get without our voices collectively coming together and ensuring that whatever developments are made or put in place align with that goal and that vision. So I think the congestion, the traffic, the lack of integration in spaces, the lack of thoughtfulness put into community spaces is what kind of feeds into this sort of frustration. So ideally, what this means for us is being able to map out where we want our community to go, what we want it to look like, what size we want it to be. So these different areas are all kind of wrapped in together. Second, of course, is going to be public safety, whether that's a lot, coming from our traffic or whether that comes from some of the community issues. I know in the news locally, there's been concern about e-bikes. There's been concern about group homes. So we need to come together as a unified voice to set guidelines and standards for how we manage and address those problems. Third, I like to include sort of unofficially is really defining our community, preserving our history, understanding who we are as Santan Valley within the construct of the East Valley. So it's establishing an identity. So I think really researching and looking into building that narrative. Because what I like to share with everyone is that as we approach America 250, again, we are creating another chapter, not only in the state, but in this great nation. So how do we write that narrative? How do we write that story? And how do we as a town contribute to the state and country writ large? So it is a challenge, but what it comes down to is getting to know one another, understanding how we all fit in this mosaic. So again, those are 3 important things that I look to really pursue in this term, my first elected term. But it's great because we have a blank canvas. Many towns and cities, you don't really step into such openness. And in many ways, it's kind of like being a pioneer. The pioneers who kind of settled here in Queen Creek. And I know we've mentioned we want to look to our neighbors and our friends to look at best practices. I know we've talked about looking at what's gone right and what's gone wrong. For us uniquely, it's very hard to know, and this is the reality. Where does Santan begin? Where does Queen Creek end? Where does Queen Creek begin? And where does Santan Valley end? The only thing nowadays that gives us that sort of mark are the campaign signs, because we know who's going to be, running in which area. But that being said, it means really working in the spirit of cooperation, understanding that this is not a zero-sum game, that we have very much all as a region to gain from every community being successful.
And you have a lot of points in there that we will get to in just a minute, but from a chamber perspective and from the business community as a whole, most of Santan Valley, it would be fair to say, has to leave the area to go to work. And economic development hasn't really been a big issue in Santan Valley to date, which is one of the driving forces for incorporation. So how do you think you can go about attracting those high-quality jobs and businesses to locate in Santan Valley, and is there an economic development plan?
From a personal perspective, I'm one of our residents that commutes outside of Santan Valley. Again, I commute 45 minutes to an hour to downtown Phoenix. To the Department of Veterans Affairs. So I sit on the 24 and really, feel that pressure, that angst, and again, that exhaustion when we come back to our community. When I actually started this term following my appointment, I understood that there was a deficit of knowledge that needed to be filled. So I immediately joined the Arizona Association of Economic Development. I'm actually part of their current professional certification cohort. So for the past few months, I've been really studying and learning up and understanding how unique Arizona is when it comes to economic development. So absolutely, one of the things, not only for the sake of financing town operations, we really need to look at understanding where we can place certain businesses, certain types of businesses, the diversity of different businesses, support our local businesses, because even pre-incorporation, we've had a just plethora of small mom and pops operations that we want to continue into the foreseeable future. One of the things we can do on an economic development piece is to really establish stability. You can't attract business if they're unaware of how consistent and how much confidence they have in city operations. So that means really putting in place those dense and mundane elements, whether it means, our TPT, our, what sorts of, funding mechanisms, property taxes, things of that nature. So we need to get that instituted immediately, because in the meantime, they're operating sort of in an atmosphere of uncertainty. And I think that really kind of halts growth and halts development. So the sooner we can get those fundamentals in place, the better. But I also like to say we need to dream big. And I'm probably stepping ahead of myself, because really the role of being a council member is looking not just at the now, but 5, 10, 20 years down the line. Arizona is an exciting state. We've become really propelled at the forefront of the technology revolution that's sweeping the globe. How does Santan Valley hit? So I talk about dreaming. So, perhaps we'll have that conversation a few years from now about next steps. But again, ideally, I do envision, a Main Street. I envision, and we look at sort of admiration, that journey that Queen Creek itself has taken. We look at the downtown developments, and we've got our sort of urban core in mind. So it's a matter of understanding that we do want to have a mix, one that supports businesses, one that encourages businesses, and really contributes to that mission to preserve quality of life, ensure that Santan Valley is a place where we can both live, work, play, and we can ignore Phoenix, at least during the weekdays.
Right.
So,
very good. Part of your answer, you touched on a little bit about, you mentioned it as revenue sources to create that stability for businesses so they know what to expect. But for the average person, how do you envision managing a municipal budget? What will be the revenue sources, and how are you going to be able to accomplish everything a new town needs to do on the revenue that you have?
Well, right now, again, we're really leaning on state-supported, state-shared revenue and HERF funds. So those are the backbone of our operations for now. So as we have those deliberations, having those discussions with all the relevant stakeholders, understanding what is right size. Because at the end of the day, we want to be as transparent and be able to validate the rates that we set them at. Understanding that we are building something, that we are projecting, and that we are attempting to ensure that we manage our residents' taxpayer dollars as soon as they come responsibly. We are here to be stewards of that dollar. Again, this is not sort of attempt to create things that don't matter. So right now the focus is on, again, I mentioned the fundamentals, the backbone. So we need to ensure that there is an appropriate balance in the rates that we set, whether it come from property taxes, TPT, to ensure that they don't become burdensome, because that's the last thing we want. We want to ensure that every dollar is accounted for and substantiated and validated. And I think the fear for incorporation was this, I guess, myth that things would increase somehow. But the reality, and I think what many residents who voted for incorporation realize is those dollars have been taken, but they've been invested elsewhere. Like our own families and our own our own goals, personal goals. We want to be certain that there is, transparency and communication, and ensuring that, again, that we don't deter investment, but that we do things that make sense.
Well, and so getting the budget in place, managing those tax dollars, one of the first things I think that comes to people's mind then is roads and transportation. You mentioned being stuck on the 24 as you commute downtown. Yes. I don't envy that. But how do you envision the town being able to impact roads and road construction? And what do you see as priorities, and what's your plan for that?
Well, there's a lot of discussion and talk about what we want roads to be, and I had a great conversation with many members of our Board of Supervisors, specifically our Supervisor Mike Goodman, and he's been a great mentor in terms of instructing how we really need to look at roads as the backbone of our development plans and our growth plans. Right now, the important piece is to remain a very valuable and dependable partner with ADOT, with our regional partners as well, and to have those relationships ongoing. It's not really something that's helpful to look at Santan Valley in a bubble, in a vacuum. We need to understand how the residents within our area move, and prioritize how we can alleviate and mitigate those flows. The most important piece that has kind of come to my attention, again, is because of the lack of coordination when it comes to repairs, road repairs, and that sort of thing. There's not much communication to the neighborhoods. So we've gotten complaints about speeding vehicles through neighborhoods. So how do we talk about and address the secondary impacts that occur on Santan Valley neighborhoods themselves, whether it means working with our partners to look at traffic mitigation measures. And I know in the Empire Ranch neighborhood, for example, when Ironwood and Gansel are shut down, or we have those kind of lane convergences, that creates a huge mess that spills over into those specific neighborhoods. And again, we talk about wanting to ensure safety. We have young children running in the streets, and that's unfortunately been a fact of life here. So again, we need to look at understanding how we can facilitate and moderate those secondary routes that occur when road closures occur. So it does involve having a really robust communication plan with residents as well, and to have those spaces to be able to discuss those. But again, the usual suspects: Hunt Highway, Gansel, and there's discussion. I'm really excited about them really extending some of other, roads. But really, at the end of the day, it's having a concrete plan in place for repairs and doing those in a way that does not impact our travelers so significantly. But yeah, there's talk about a big expressway, the expressway that'll occur right near the canal. It means having discussions about the 24 extension, and then again working with those regional groups to reflect Santan Valley's needs. But I definitely think embarking on a traffic study would also be a great project to pursue, at least in the initial stages. And so along with transportation, you mentioned Supervisor Goodman talking about roads and how they're intertwined with economic development. And a little bit in your opening statement, you talked about the general plan and land use and how all of those things come together. So how do you envision that coming together specifically in these early stages? And how do you go about creating a Santan Valley character, if you will, through the zoning and planning stages? It really, I like to use this sort of example because, and this is a really juvenile example, but if you look at the Avengers, like they have different characters on the Avengers, and you look at their story, and eventually they assemble as a team. So I look at each character as kind of one piece, like you mentioned, our planning and zoning. And you talk about, sort of our, funding and budgeting. So we're really taking these stories in different pieces, but the idea is to assemble this all together at the end of the day. So we want to be able to kind of map out, and with our zoning and ordinance process, we had a very lengthy process of engaging our citizens, understanding where certain commercial, residential, industrial spaces may occur within that. Now, when I mentioned that the roads being the backbone of that, again, we really need to look at that as the skeleton of our community, and then identifying where commercial, industrial, and residential makes sense. When it comes to sort of the branding piece, we had this huge vote yesterday. Well, not even really an official vote, but it does signify kind of the growing pains in that process. We actually looked at our town logo and our town seal, and I know that's not a topic that can necessarily, unite so easily because everyone has their opinion. But it kind of speaks to the challenges of that, because we wanted a seal that didn't signify any town, Arizona. You have the cactus, you have the mountains, and you have the fields. And sort of the grumblings about that is that there was always a similarity to something that's already in place. So at the end of the day, I think one of the things that we do unite on in Santan Valley is that we do want it to be a family-centric community, that we do want to have a quality of life rooted in families. So how do we attend to those roads that get them to their daily activities, where it means getting to school? So, we talk about traffic. How does that create sort of a ripple effect throughout a community? How do we create open spaces and parks where those families can go and play baseball games and soccer games and, horseback riding, hopefully. I know Queen Creek's big on horseback riding. It's about having that overall dialogue as a community, and I'm one cog and one piece in that. But if anything, I can help facilitate that, and I think that's really one thing that's overlooked as a community or town council member, is that we are here to be able to create space for that conversation, because it's not going to be my vision, it's not going to be the vision of my 6 colleagues on the council, it's going to be our collective vision. All right now, I think estimated 107,000 of us. Which I also do want to mention, because of that unique fact, we are, at least as far as I'm aware, the largest community in the United States by population to incorporate. So we have many voices, and a part of my job is to get those voices out and give them the ability to be able to articulate for us together what that means. So I myself can have my big vision. I mean, like I said, I like to dream. And I like to dream big, and I see Santan Valley being a very, very, positive contributor to our state. But again, that's only 107,000th of that. But I think, we've got a big task, a big tall order ahead. So I'm very proud of, as a council so far, if there's anything that comes from my current appointed term, definitely to be proud of the staff that we've assembled. Brent Billingsley, our town manager, Dana DeLong, our town clerk, and our town attorney. We are very, very excited about all of the talented folks that have come in to help build this project. We like to joke, because every new employee gets a number, and I think, we're at number 12, number 13. So, we are really thrilled just about how how these individuals are subject matter experts. I mean, these individuals have been in the field already. So if anything that I can be proud of is that we've placed our town in such great, wonderful hands, individuals that we can be confident with, who are doing this and spending those hours to be able to ensure that we do right by our citizens, and we do right by our community members. And that's really what it comes down to today, minus the distractions that are out there. We're creating a city, we're creating a town, and we're going to leave it to the rest of us to build that community. So,
and building community, you've mentioned family, kids, sports. How do you see Santan Valley having a parks and recreation program? Is that something that can be done and there isn't a lot of space for parks right now. How do you see that going in the future?
And again, we recognize that priority. In fact, when we had our community town hall, that was one of the priorities that came up, was the need for a regional park for our residents to be able to enjoy with their families. So we're being creative with the funding. I know right now the reality is we own no land. But with whatever creativity we can muster, there was discussion even at our last town council meeting, at least starting with a splash pad. So we would like to create initially just areas where community members can come together. And again, it does involve moving beyond just the neighborhoods, because I know each of the neighborhoods is unique. They have their own amenities that they provide, but the idea here is to provide something for everyone else. I come from farthest northern community in Santan Valley Incorporated, Santan Valley proper, Pima Crossing, and again, we're one of those that doesn't have an on-the-ground HOA, so we really lean on that. And I know there's a little bit of kind of confusion. Queen Creek has a wonderful recreational aquatic facility, so I know our residents have been really confused about kind of how we can go about either replicating that or duplicating that for ourselves. But it is a priority because, again, it comes in line to live, work, play. That's really kind of the guiding light for us. So it does involve, again, like I said, baby steps, but understand that the message has been received loud and clear. So hopefully you can get the splash pad in place and move on to bigger and greater things. So,
yeah, and just in fairness, it did take 35 years before we were able to get that aquatic center up and running. So
wonderful.
You've mentioned transparency and citizen engagement throughout this, and how do you want to structure things so that you have transparency and citizen engagement?
Ideally, I prefer, my preference is in person, and to really remove people from the social media, from the electronic spaces, because again, as we're all aware, those don't really represent real Santan Valley. The real Santan Valley comes in the everyday and ordinary interactions we have with one another. So while we do have our town council meetings, I would like to multiply those additional nodes for engagement, whether it mean more meet and greets, more sit downs, more, I like to call them open office hours, sit down at a coffee, but I've already been approached by email from concerned citizens who just want to be able to talk, and I've always made that a priority for myself, and everyone is very busy. We get that. So it's a matter of being able to corral all those people from those commutes. But again, my intent and my focus has been to just approach someone off the street. You live in Santan Valley. What are your thoughts so far? And to really be able to be a communicative piece for them, to share sort of my thoughts, understanding that I live here too. And again, just to dial back, we talked about what motivated you. Well, again, for a time, many of us residents, because we didn't have that place to understand what was going on around us, we saw the development taking place at a pace that was breathtaking. The Santan Valley of today is not the Santan Valley of yesterday that I moved into, because I'll tell you, when I came in on that U-Haul, Ironwood was dark. It was very dark. And I think I thought I was lost. But we know that that's not the case today. So how do we insert ourselves? We have a seat at the table when we talk about where Santan Valley and what it's going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, because it's not going to be the same. But I prefer that personal interaction and that personal, face-to-face engagement, because that's how you build a bond. You build a neighbor, you build a friend, and eventually you build a community. But that's what I would like to prioritize. We have our first festival coming in, our Operational Independence Day on July 1st over at Poston Butte High School. We're really excited about that because, again, we are not just a community on paper, we are a community in vivo, in real life, with real people who love to enjoy a good time. And so I invite everyone to be able to see that. And it's something I highly encourage.
Very good. We'll look forward to that. We've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to touch on?
I just want everyone to feel the excitement. We feel the excitement on the council. I know there's a lot of, sort of outstanding questions in place, but Santan Valley is only as successful as its people. And I know everyone here has our town's best interests at heart. So I encourage them, come out, whatever time you can do. And even if it means just dropping an email, our emails are readily available. But understand that we're all working hard. We're here for you. We work for the residents and our members of our community. So what we come together, I have high hope and high expectation that what comes out at the end of the day is going to be a really, really wonderful place to live. But yeah, we are doing something that hasn't been attempted in a while. So let's show them what we're made of. Let's show them what we can do and be proud of our community. So thank you again very much for this time. It's been a pleasure.
Rupert, how can people find more information about you and the campaign?
Well, you can go onto my website. It's rupert4stv.polyengine.com. Again, and feel free to email me, rupertwolfert@santanvalley.gov. I loved reaching out and talking and having a good cup of joe and just figuring out who you are and how we can be better neighbors. So.
That's great. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.